Hey, welcome back to The Brave and the Boys. I'm your host, Jake. We got Jordan manning the camera, and today we are doing our most requested video ever. And by most requested, I mean one person by the name of Alex on YouTube requested this video. But you know what? Here at The Brave and the Boys, even though we've grown, you know, we have 650 subscribers, 649. We lost one today, but you know, I'll live. We are never gonna grow too big to make what the masses want. So if Alex and the hordes of others that didn't comment want this video, we are gonna make it. So despite the fact that this will probably be our most controversial video ever, and I am facing the wrath of Alan Moore, I'm gonna do it. So today we are doing our Watchmen video, but we are not just doing Watchmen, we are doing a Watchmen reading order. But I wanna tell you first about our sponsor, Organic Price Books. So you guys know the drill. If you want to save $2 on your book, you can use the code Braveboys. If you want to save 5% on 3 or more books, you can use the code Braveboyssit. There'll be a link in the description below. Guys, thank you for supporting the channel. There's also our Redbubble, which has things like this t-shirt, or this mug, or a coaster. There'll also be a link in the description. Again, these are just little ways that could help out the channel, because making videos can be kind of an expensive hobby. I mean, the hauls don't pay for themselves yet. So let's dive in.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time, the Legion of Doom.
The first and honestly only thing you need to read for Watchmen is Watchmen, and preferably in the trade paperback. I've owned this trade edition for many years. I thought about upgrading. I told myself I wasn't gonna do it. Why? Because the creator of DC screwed over Alan Moore. So for those of you that don't know, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons were tasked with integrating the Charleston characters like Peacemaker and Blue Beetle and The Question into the DC universe. So they decided to, since they just acquired these rights, make a story. Then they decided, how about you make your own characters based off of the Charleston comics? Rorschach, Night Owl, Dr. Manhattan. And the agreement was when Watchmen went out of print, so when the comics were stopped, you know, being in print, which was very common, you know, there weren't really trade paperbacks or deluxes or definitely not absolutes back then, the rights would revert to Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. Thing is, Watchmen became the very first book perpetually in print. Alan Moore has nothing to do with the sequels or any other books, but let's talk about Watchmen for a second. The story is set in this alternate 1985 where superheroes exist, like vigilantes exist, so you have people with regular human powers. So there was an original team known as the Minutemen, and then there was a new team called the Watchmen. The only person with actual superpowers is Dr. Manhattan, but there's kind of a science-based explanation for his powers. But essentially the story kicks off when one of them, the comedian who was on the old team and the new team, gets brutally murdered. There's a lot of Cold War tensions going on, a lot of political intrigue. It became an outlawed crime to be a superhero. But Watchmen really just puts a lens on it's a critique of America, it's a critique on superheroes, it's a critique on just superhero comics in general. Like for instance, there's amazing characters. Rorschach, for example, is an uncompromising vigilante with a strict moral code. He has a black and white view of the world, which is symbolized by the Rorschach mask on his face. Then you have a character like Dr. Manhattan. He is detached, godlike being. What would happen if you actually had superpowers and could see every timeline at once? You know, you wouldn't really be buddy-buddy with everybody. All the characters are amazing. Watchmen is amazing. Again, read it. Don't gotta read anything else, and Alan Moore will be happy. So like I said, all you need to read is Watchmen. Kind of wraps up the video. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to keep reading and stay brave. Okay, Jordan, I think we're done. Cool. Wait, do you think the video is short?
A little.
I mean, I guess there's a few other books I could throw in. There's like prequels, a sequel. I mean, do you think, they shouldn't really read that. All you should read is Watchmen, right?
Definitely. I think that's what Alan Moore would want.
Okay, let's do it live. Let's see if I can find, you know what? I think I know what they should read next. So first up, we have the Before Watchmen omnibus. If you want to see me unbox it with Jess, you can watch this video here. This is a collection of prequel stories that focus on individual characters from the universe, all occurring before the events of the graphic novel, though some of them occur afterwards and during. Timelines in Watchmen are weird. So it's 8 limited series and one-shot specials. These are going to add a lot of texture to the established lore, so you do want to read it afterwards. Some of them are a little controversial, but let's break it down. I think my favorite was the Minutemen series, penned by one of my favorite DC comic book writers and artists in the world, Darwin Cook. It's a fascinating exploration into the original team of the masked adventurers from the 40s. It delves into the darker side of the golden age of superheroes and lends a tragic sense of foreboding to the events of Watchmen. You don't really get to explore a ton of the Minutemen in the original Watchmen, so having a series dedicated to it was awesome. Then there's the Rorschach series, pinned by Brian Azzarello. It's a gritty look into one of the best characters in Watchmen, Rorschach. I mean, I love the Question, so how am I not gonna love Rorschach? But the one I enjoyed the most was Dr. Manhattan's. This was by J. Michael Straczynski. It delves into the cosmic consciousness of Watchmen's most powerful character, playing with time, reality, and the nature of existence. One of the things that I think is so interesting about Dr. Manhattan is he talks about how we're all puppets. He's just a puppet that can see the strings. So this story explains how even though he sees the future, why is he forced to make every decision that in this one timeline? So you get to really see what makes him be a puppet and what the dangers would be if he wasn't. So is it necessary? Again, no, not really. Is it needed? I don't really know, but honestly, I think some of them are actually worth reading. I mean, there's never anything wrong with reading Darwin Cook. You don't have to get the omnibus. You can buy just the character arc that you want. So for all those Moloch fans, if Moloch was your favorite character in Watchmen, you can read the one shot. Moving on from this, the next one chronologically would be Flashpoint. So I am going to say, if you only want to read about Watchmen characters, you might want to skip ahead because Watchmen being a part of Flashpoint was a retcon. So we'll touch on Flashpoint really quick. I've covered it before in some of my favorite, DC Crisis omnibuses and that kind of stuff, but it does become a part of the Watchmen story moving forward. So let's dive in. Jordan, do you think I could get away with just using the footage I did when I talked about the Flashpoint omnibus before and just like casually cut it in here and not have to do it again?
100%.
And, oh wait, I don't save my footage because I don't have an SSD or hard drive. Guess I'm doing it again. Okay, Flashpoint. Like I said, it doesn't have any Watchmen characters in it, so why is it in a Watchmen reading order? That is because they retconned what Flashpoint was, what happened, why it happened, and tied it into the overarching Watchmen storyline. So Flashpoint, really quick, this will be the shortest section because again, I want to focus on the Watchmen characters. Flashpoint, Barry Allen wakes up, his mom's alive, the world's crazy, and like things like Batman is no longer Bruce Wayne, but it's Thomas Wayne and he uses guns. The Atlanteans are fighting with the Amazonians. Superman is a government experiment. He's all skinny. He looks kind of freaky deaky. I don't really like it. And it's going to be a major motion picture coming up soon. Okay, so Flashpoint. Barry Allen changed the timeline by going back in time to save his mom. He realizes he has to make the ultimate sacrifice and let it happen, and the world will go back to normal, except something happens and it doesn't go back to normal, and they merge all the different realities together, such as the Wildstorm universe. And there's a character named Pandora who uses her powers to merge everything together and fix everything. Only Pandora gets murdered by a weird blue figure. We don't really know what's going on. That's later. Flashpoint established a new continuity called the New 52. People didn't really like the New 52. It was darker, everyone was younger, but it didn't make sense. How was Batman only Batman for 10 years, but Damian Wayne's 13, A lot of inconsistencies. Everyone wanted their hope and optimism back. So who stole the hope? Who stole the optimism? Who caused Flashpoint? Find out now. This is a very personal and special story for me. When the New 52 came out, I was in high school, so I got to read some issues here or there, but I couldn't really afford to buy everything that I wanted. DC Rebirth was poised as the next big thing in comics, the best jumping on point for DC fans, and I was like, okay, this is my time. One of the most beloved characters of DC is Wally West. His character was changed in the New 52, and people really missed him. This book reintroduces Wally West. He's in a weird state where he's running around and he's seeing how the world is different, and he asks the question, who stole the 10 years? He journeys to Earth to try to reconnect with his loved ones, places he's been, people he's loved, trying to find his lightning rod. The fate of the universe now hinges on Wally's rebirth. It's a high-stakes story that sets up a domino effect for the future. It was written by Jeff Johns with stunning artwork by Ivan Reyes, Gary Frank, Ethan Van Sciver, and Phil Jimenez. This is the deluxe edition. I had the original comic book, and it's a pivotal piece of modern DC lore. At the very end, he finally finds his lightning rod, the person to bring him back, and it's Barry Allen. He says, "How could I ever forget you?" And he grabs him and pulls him out of the Speed Force into the DC continuity. Wally West returned, hope returned to the DC universe. Then, the ending. You find out that it was Dr. Manhattan that changed and caused the New 52. And it's kind of a good meta commentary because Watchmen led to darker, grittier comic book stories. New 52 was a darker, more gritty comic book story, and it sets the stage where Dr. Manhattan's been playing God in the DC universe, and what's gonna happen. It's first explored in The Button. Let's talk about that next. Following the events of DC Universe Rebirth, Batman stumbles upon a mystery that not even the world's greatest detective can solve alone. A strange blood-stained smiley face button from the Watchmen universe. The chilling artifact from the Watchmen universe embedded in the Batcave wall. The button doesn't belong to this universe, so the question is, where did it come from? And more importantly, who left it there? For answers, Batman turns to the fastest man alive, the Flash. Barry Allen this time, not Wally West. The button is then stolen by the Reverse Flash, who Jordan asked me today, is his name Ichabod Crane? No, it's Eobard Thawne. Batman and Flash chase his trail into the parallel world, twisted alternate timeline that shouldn't exist. It's a journey that presents this heartbreaking glimpses of fallen loved ones and forgotten friends. Wally had warned the Flash of an unseen force meddling with our own world, manipulating histories and pulling strings, watching over everything, and this strange yellow button could be the key to solving everything. This was penned by Joshua Williamson and Tom King, with stunning artwork by Jason Fabuk and Howard Porter. It's an adventure that shakes the foundation. I mean, it's so cool when the Reverse Flash is just beating Batman's ass. He's just like, I gotta survive 11 seconds until Barry gets here. But those 11 seconds are an eternity. This was the most direct representation we had of the Watchmen universe post Rebirth, and I think it's the perfect thing to read before Doomsday Clock. Doomsday Clock is the official sequel of Watchmen and what we're going to talk about next. This was the series we were all waiting for, the build-up. Everything was going to change, except it took too long to come out. I mean, how would you feel if you started watching this video and then you had to wait a month until the next portion of the video, and then that month turned into 2 months, and then 3 months, and then 4 months, and every other storyline was supposed to change after Doomsday Clock, and it never came out. So you got events like Drowned Earth, where everyone turns into a fish in Justice League, and then Aquaman says, I control fish, so I control No, it sucked. It was terrible. This was a hard time, but you kept telling yourself, someday it would be all collected, and then you'd be able to read it and not have to wait for the delays. Doomsday Clock took 2 years to come out. Terrible. So this was the much anticipated meeting between DC's flagship character Superman and Watchmen's omnipotent figure, Dr. Manhattan. Haunted by visions of a future confrontation, Manhattan couldn't discern if the impending clash would result in his own destruction or the end of all reality. The only thing he saw in the future was Superman throwing a fist, and he said, does he end me or do I end everything? The story also brings to a head the Superman theory, a global conspiracy suggesting that the United States has been secretly creating its own army of metahumans due to the high concentration of superheroes. In Washington, D.C., Superman stands alone, battling the consequences of this global tension. It's here that Manhattan reveals himself and admits that he's responsible for the deaths of Jonathan and Martha Kent, and due to his tampering with the DC's reality to create the New 52. I mean, it's badass. There's one issue where literally every DC hero teams up to fight Dr. Manhattan, and they get smoked. So now I'm going to get into spoilers for Doomsday Clock because it does tee up the rest of what's going on. But essentially, you find out that Superman wasn't attacking Dr. Manhattan, he was defending him. This act of selflessness and bravery from someone who did not deserve it profoundly moves Manhattan, someone who usually doesn't feel emotion. This helps him finally understand the hope and truth that Superman embodies, the idealistic and aspirational nature of superheroes that the Man of Steel represents. With this newfound understanding, Manhattan decides to fix what he did, starting with Alan Scott discovering the Green Lantern. This restores the Justice Society of America, which inspires a young Clark Kent to become Superboy, saving his parents from a car crash. This chain of event also leads to the creation of the Legion of Superheroes in the 31st century. So now we have the old team and the future team back. With these restorations of these teams, Superman manages to turn the tide against the assembled enemies, leaving Manhattan with a comprehensive view of the past, present, and future of DC, even beyond with his meeting with Superman. This really inspires Dr. Manhattan. Manhattan, before departing for his home universe, makes all nuclear weapons disappear, leaving new Watchmen characters, Mime and Marionette, in the DC universe. Doomsday Clock is now available as a fat trade, which I don't have because I have the single issues. This 2-set standard size hardcover box set, and this absolute. So that right there is a good ending point. It's the sequel, but what if you want to take it one step further? I mean, we've already gone this far. What happens next? Where do the characters return? What happens to Dr. Manhattan? I mean, Doomsday Clock was supposed to change everything, and then it didn't. What story then changed everything? That would be Scott Snyder's Death Metal. So that should be the end, right? That's the thing that changed everything. But what if Jeff Johns wanted to say, no, I'm going to change everything again? Guys, this story is just getting started. Let's move on to where Dr. Manhattan returns in Death Metal. Okay, friends, the next thing you want to read is Death Metal. Now, you can jump straight into Death Metal after Doomsday Clock, or there's a couple things you should read first. Jordan, again, can I just cut in from the previous video the footage of me talking about? Okay, no, we're going to redo it again. So, before you read that, you should start out with the Metal Omnibus, and then not one, not two, but 3 Justice League books. Again, no Watchmen characters appear in any of those. Then you should read the deluxe Batman Who Laughs, or the standard size hardcover. It doesn't have to be the deluxe, but remember, if you go to our last video, we're doing a giveaway. Comment hashtag Segway Queen. We still got about a week left on that giveaway. And then you're ready to read the next appearance of the Watchmen characters, Death Metal. So in Death Metal, the Batman Who Laughs becomes a true god of the multiverse. One could argue that the Batman Who Laughs was already one of the most fearsome villains in the DC universe. I mean, Batman and the Joker, who could stop it? But his transformation into Bat-Manhattan has taken him to new terrifying heights. This Bat-Manhattan is a fusion of the sadistic intelligence and cunning of the Batman Who Laughs with the near omnipotent powers of Dr. Manhattan. This makes him one of the most powerful beings in the entire multiverse, capable of reshaping reality to his whims. At this point, the Bat-Manhattan is more than just a villain. He's a godlike figure who can alter the very fabric of existence. His transformation is more than just a power upgrade. It's a fundamental shift in the character. The Batman Who Laughs was already a twisted mirror image of Batman, but now as Bat-Manhattan, he's also a distorted reflection of Dr. Manhattan, a being who once sought to understand and protect reality, not manipulate it for his own ends. Death Metal presents us with a universe on the brink of destruction, where the Bat-Manhattan as the architect of its potential downfall. This dark, nihilistic setting is a perfect stage for the heroes of the DC universe to rise up against the insurmountable odds. I'm not gonna say it again. The Bat-Manhattan and his horrifying grandeur embodies the existential dread that the Death Metal music often explores, making him the perfect villain for this event. Okay, I think they also call him like the final Batman, or the final Bruce Wayne, or what did they call it? It's like the Black Shadow Dr. Manhattan. I'm not gonna call him Manhattan anymore. So this was a crossover event, really cool. It was supposed to change the status quo because Doomsday Clock took too long to matter. Now this mattered. The whole central point of Death Metal ushered in Infinite Frontier, Justice League Incarnate, and then eventually the Dark Crisis. And their whole central opus was everything matters. Everything matters. But I don't think Jeff Johns liked that, because he decided to say, let's make fun of Everything Matters and do it in a sequel. So now we have one final book, Flashpoint Beyond, which is a sequel to Flashpoint. It's a sequel to Justice League Incarnate and Infinite Frontier, and it's a sequel to Doomsday Clock of all things. There's a lot of Watchmen motifs in it. So let's dive into one final book. So our last book, and when I say last book, I mean last book so far, because the ending of this book teases more, is Flashpoint Beyond. Now, like I said, this is a sequel to a lot of books, so this is important if you've read Flashpoint. Now, when I say Flashpoint, you don't have to read the whole omnibus. The two stories in there that I would think you should read are the main Flashpoint event and Flashpoint Batman, which introduces Martha Wayne as the new Joker and Thomas Wayne as the new Batman. To get more context on this, you know I love throwing in those bonus books so you can't just fast forward to the end and see everything. I would start by saying City of Bane by Tom King. Then after Death Metal, everything became possible. Everything mattered, and that was explored in Infinite Frontier. This also ushered in the return of the Flashpoint Batman, which was then followed up again into Justice League Incarnate. Now, there is one other book you could try to read. It's not collected yet. It's called Dark Crisis. It's also important. I mean, one of the opening lines in Flashpoint Beyond is, "A few days after the Dark Crisis." This book came out before Dark Crisis. How petty is that? That Jeff Johns had to sneak in a few days after the Dark Crisis. Like, oh my God. This is also a sequel to Three Jokers. I mean, oh my God, it's a sequel to everything. I can't do this justice. I'm gonna tell you guys to watch a video. Go to Comic Pop Returns and watch their video. The Joker's real name revealed right here. Jordan gave me a smile, like a little nod, like you did it, because I did it right this time. Okay, let's get to Flashpoint Beyond. So it starts out with Batman, with Mime and Marionette, which were the new Watchmen characters introduced in Doomsday Clock, breaking into steel technology. Then it cuts into the Flashpoint universe, which is somehow back. In Flashpoint Beyond, we see the Time Masters discussing the recreation of the Flashpoint timeline and its implications on the upcoming events in the DC universe. The series makes surprising connections to the Watchmen world and Doomsday Clock through the character of Cleopatra Pack, or Nostalgia. They named her Nostalgia. How gross is that? She was first introduced in Doomsday Clock number 12. She's an orphan fascinated with the rise and fall of Ozymandias. But I mean, there's just so many. There's clock motifs. I mean, there's a killer named the Clockwork Killer. I mean, there's just so many little dances that Flashpoint's a sequel to Doomsday Clock. It's all about the continuity of Doomsday Clock. And the whole thing is that no, everything doesn't matter. Only certain things matter, which was the opposite thesis in these ones. So you have Scott Snyder, Joshua Williamson saying everything matters, and Jeff Johns saying no, only what I write matters. And the endings, literally the last panel is of Nostalgia saying, I guess we're gonna have to find the Watchmen characters another way. So it's not over. Nothing ever ends, Adrian. They're gonna milk the teat of Watchmen forever. Flashpoint Beyond shows that the Watchmen world and the characters are going to continue to be a part of DC's broader mythology, whether through further Doomsday Clock sequels, through Nostalgia, through the little kid introduced at the end of Doomsday Clock, or more crossovers. In conclusion, Flashpoint Beyond links the Flashpoint world, the Doomsday Clock world, the DC world, and suggests a future for the Watchmen characters within the DC universe, despite the complex history and controversy surrounding their continuation. And yay, we did it, guys. That's every Watchmen appearance. Let's end it here, guys. I could go on forever. Let's jump into our conclusions. Hopefully Alan Moore hasn't turned me into a toad yet, or whatever wizarding powers he has. Thank you so much for watching the video, or thank you so much for skipping ahead. Here you have chronological order of how to read the whole overarching story of DC fuckery. Or just read this and read it in the trade paperback the way it was intended. Actually go out, buy the 12 individual issues the way God intended, the way Alan Moore intended. I will say though, kind of a bastard. I liked it. I mean, when I see the Watchmen characters come up, I like it. I know I'm not supposed to. I'm sorry. I guess it's just for me. I was always born into a world of DC fuckery. Read this and watch the Watchmen TV show. Read this by itself and nothing else, or read all of this, guys. It is your journey, your choice. I'm just giving you the information here. I just want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you all for sticking with this channel. I'll say one more time, if you want to pick up any of these books, you can check out Organic Price Books. The link is down below. If you want to pick up a t-shirt like this or this, you go to Redbubble. I want to remind you to comment down below what your Watchmen reading order is. I want you to like, comment, smash that like button. Most importantly, for all my viewers out there, I want you to keep reading and stay brave.